1.
Good evening. I'm Bernard Green, Chair of the Brookline Select Board, and this is the meeting of the Select Board for October 1, 2024. Initial issue, I'd like to move that the Select Board enter into executive session for the purpose of discussing litigation strategy in the case of Cecilia Ma versus Town of Brookline. We are going into executive session because let's see, what is it? What do we say? To discuss matters of litigation strategy in public would compromise the position of the town, and the chair so declares that as a reason for going into executive session. The board will reconvene in open session after our executive session is completed. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. John Van Scoyac.
Aye.
Michael Sandman.
Aye.
Paul Warren.
Aye.
David Perlman.
Aye.
And chair votes aye. Okay. So
We're coming back in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening. I'm Bernard Green, Chair of the Brookline Select Board, and this is the regular meeting of the Select Board for October 1st, 2024. Let's start off with any comments from the Select Board? John, are you raising your hand?
I'm raising my hand. So I just want to be sure that everybody knows about three particular things that are coming up within the next week or so. One of them is the, the Friends of Halls Pond having their fall volunteer effort at Halls Pond on Sunday, October 6th, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And even if people are not all that experienced with, with outdoor yard work and such, it's a great place to learn about outdoor yard work. So you don't have to be, a veteran of lots of raking and hoeing and planting of bulbs and that kind of thing. You can go to this Halls Pond Sanctuary cleanup day and refresh day and learn about those things. So that's the number one thing. That's Sunday, October 6th at 11 a.m. at Halls Pond. Then there's a flu clinic at the Baker School on Wednesday, October 9th. And I would strongly advise that people check the Brookline town website and particularly the health department part of the town website for all of the details about that, because it does require registering in advance. But that's a flu clinic Wednesday at the Baker School, starting at 4:30 p.m. And then further down the road, but coming soon, is Indigenous Peoples Day. And it looks like there's going to be a terrific celebration of that in Brookline. That's coming up on October 14th and 1 o'clock in the space sort of behind and to the side of our health building right here on the town hall campus. And so starting at 1 o'clock, October 14th, a really good program for Indigenous Peoples Day celebration. And I made a point of saying outdoors, but I think it's indoors and outdoors. So it'll be in the public health building. And then I think for part of it, I think they might move outside, but they know better than I do.
Well,
Yep. Thank you, Bernard. Thank you, John, for those announcements. I want to mention again that the comprehensive plan process is having its public launch next week. The resulting plan will help shape the future of the town, its neighborhoods, mobility, and businesses. And we are having an official kickoff in person. There'll be a visioning workshop that the public is invited to, kind of be an open house type of format. Wednesday, October 9th from 7 to 9 p.m. at 22 Tappan Street. That is in the Tappan Street Cafe of the new freshman building of the high school. And you can drop in any time. You can come in and spend 10 minutes. You could spend the 2 hours if you want. We're just happy to see you come and engage in various parts of the planning process. There'll also, for folks that can attend in person, the next day, there'll be a virtual visioning workshop that will be done over Zoom. That's going to be held Thursday, October 10th from 12:10, it's very specific, 12:10 to 12:50 p.m. And then there'll be some discussion after to about 1:30. And there's a Zoom link on the town's website to gain access to that and register. And then lastly, but not complete, there'll be an online survey that launched today. And that link is now available on the comprehensive plan website. You can submit a survey from today until the 20th, and this is for future visioning type of work. There'll be many other opportunities to engage in the process as we go, but it's about a 2-year process. And so that's all taking place next week. And I'm hoping that the public will come on out and help shape and set the vision for the future of Brookline. It's very important.
thank you. Mike.
Thanks, Bernard. I want to bring the board up to date on and the town administrator up to date on discussions that I've been having as the remaining co-chair of the ARPA committee. We've been talking with Trust Early Learning and with the Brookline Community Foundation about putting together what I hope would be a sustainable mechanism for providing affordable childcare in Brookline. That is childcare that either accepts state vouchers or accepts children who are eligible for state vouchers. We're getting, I think, fairly close to a conclusion. I have made it very clear that we need to finish this up certainly by the end of the year in order to allocate funds. And both of the other parties are sensitive to that. But it's hopefully coming along. And if it doesn't, then we'll need to sort of pivot and think about what else to do with those funds. And there are some thoughts that I have and that come out of the discussions that I have had with regard to affordable childcare that I can provide to the board if that happens.
Thank you.
Say
John?
one more thing.
Sure.
I did want to say something about Rich Kelleher. We learned of his death a week ago, but not in time for us to say anything at the time. So he's a former town administrator that he was the town administrator prior to Chaz's predecessor, Mel Kleckner. Rich Kelleher was town administrator for 15 years. And those who read their emails on the town meeting member listserv were privileged to, excuse me, read many tributes to Rich from people who had experience with him back during his 15 years as town administrator. And I'm going to take advantage of one individual who wrote something. I just thought it was so eloquent. I sent him a note and said, thank you, Ben, for what you wrote. I hope he doesn't mind if I just quote from it. And this is his description of Rich Kelleher. We lost a very good man who could run a complex, neurotic, ambitious, evolving, brash town without making too many enemies, but making a lot of allies and friends. Rich Kelleher spoke softly but reliably, and his silences spoke like steel. He told the truth to those who could handle it, but he didn't lie to others either. And then Ben goes on to say, in spite of Rich being a man of power, he was good, gentle in his manner, and steadfast. And he concludes, as they say in the faith into which Rich was born, eternal rest grant unto him, and let perpetual light shine upon him. And in the faith into which I, Ben, was born, may his memory be a blessing. So I thank Ben for writing those eloquent words. And Brookline can be thankful that we had a really extraordinary person in Rich Kelleher passed away a week ago.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, let's move on to public comment. Tiffany?
Thank you for joining us for public comment. This is an opportunity for us to hear your perspective on the issues in Brookline that matter to you. Each person speaking tonight is limited to 3 minutes. You don't need to use the entire time, but you may if you like. Once 15 minutes has been met, there is an opportunity at the conclusion of the select board's business for additional comments. Members of the public sometimes raise questions during public comment. We may be able to provide a quick answer to a question, but are more likely to work with staff to get a more thorough answer and respond over email. We'll let you know when you have 30 seconds remaining and when your time is up. Please conclude your remarks at that time. If you have more to say, you are welcome to send an email to board members expressing your thoughts in greater detail. We did not have speakers sign up in advance. Is there anyone in the room who wishes to make a public comment? If you're online and would like to make a comment, please raise your hand using the raise the hand feature at this time. There are approximately 19 participants online and no one is using the raise the hand feature at this time.
Thank you. Okay, next, we have a number of miscellaneous items. I'd like to vote items 5A through 5G in omnibus fashion. If anyone would like to pull out one of those items, let me know and we'll discuss that separately. Okay, seeing no hands raised to pull out an item. I move approval of approval of items 5A through 5G. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. John Van Scoyac.
Aye.
Michael Sandman.
Aye.
Paul Warren.
Aye.
David Perlman.
Aye.
And chair votes aye.
Bernard, can I make one comment about
Sure.
the Preservation Commission annual report that was in the consent agenda? I just, to read that report and see the amount of work that they do.
Yeah.
There's a complete list of all the actions that the Preservation Department and the Preservation Board took in order to protect our historic structures. And so I would just encourage the public to go to the packet and look at the variety of activities and protections that have been done in order to oversee and maintain our historic structures. It's greatly appreciated.
Yeah, I agree. And it's a good idea to, use their past historical commission report for the purpose of notifying the select board of what they're up to, because that was very, very helpful. Okay, next, boards and commissions interviews. We'll start out with the Brookline Commission for the Arts that we have Melissa Ann McQuarrie.
Bernard, I apologize. I did not realize how quickly we were going to move through this first part of the agenda. So I don't think either of the
You're
candidates are
shocked-
here
shocked
quite yet.
That we're moving fast. I can-
So
Like that.
I asked that we might skip to the noise bylaw waiver and come back to the
Okay.
interviews when the candidates are here.
Okay. Question of approving a noise bylaw waiver for bonded wearing course, Hammond Street nighttime paving. Work to happen between October 1 and October 14, 2024. Do we have someone to speak on this?
Yes, we have
Let's
Aaron
Aaron.
Shute, Commissioner Shute, and Amy Ingles, Transportation Administrator, online.
Good evening, Erin
Good
Chute. I'm
evening.
Commissioner of Public Works, and I'm glad to turn this over to Amy to explain, and I'm here for support and to answer any other questions.
Good evening, everyone. So this is some work that's supposed to be done by a contractor that's actually under contract with the town of Newton. Hammond Street in their jurisdiction is
Could
doing
you
some-
speak more into the mic?
Oh, sure.
I'm having a little difficult time here.
Sorry about that. Is that better?
And louder.
Yeah,
Sorry.
louder. It may just be my old ears, but I'm
No
sorry.
worries. No worries. So yeah, I'll say what I said again. Newton, Hammond Street in Newton is undergoing some repaving, and they have the city of Newton is under contract with All States Construction to do that paving. We're also doing some with that same contractor, in our section of just a small bit of our section of Hammond Street, right by that Newton town line. But we are looking to get a waiver for the noise bylaw to do this repaving at night, just because this is a very, very highly trafficked area. We think that it will be much less disruptive to have it at night rather than dealing with the high traffic volumes going through there. The decibels will be fairly mild. It's below 90 when standing on the sidewalk. We only anticipate it'll really take one night, but they are kind of they have notified people for 1 week, I believe. For 2 weeks, just in case there's any kind of weather issues or any kind of problems that they run into on site.
Okay, any questions? Mike?
Just, I assume that this is similar to what's just been done on Beacon Street? Okay, good. That's a fairly quick process.
Hey,
Yep.
Great.
Paul?
I'm glad Mike brought up Beacon Street. I just want to thank you for the work that you're doing on Beacon
Yeah.
Street. It's greatly appreciated. I know that we spent quite a bit of time together working to get some more funds into the budget for maintaining our roadways, and it is a pleasure to see that happening. I think it shows an important investment in our community and our roadways for not only for folks that are walking and biking, but just being able to navigate the roads. It's impressive to see it, and I just want to say thank you for your work on that.
Appreciate
Certainly.
that.
Okay, anything else? Any other questions?
It is a public hearing.
Oh,
Oh.
sorry.
There you go. Good for Paul.
He's reading the agenda. This is a public hearing. I'd like to open the public hearing for public comment. Any questions, comments from the audience?
There are 18 participants online. If you would like to raise your hand using the raise the hand feature to speak during public comment, please do so now. No one is raising their hand at this time.
Okay. I have one question. That part of Hammond Street that's in Brookline, are there any houses nearby?
There's 3 small residential buildings. It looks like they're very small apartment
Okay.
buildings.
Okay,
The rest of the abutters is the tennis courts, and then on Dunster, and then CVS.
all right, okay.
I assume they all got the notice that's in our, the public notice that's in our packet.
Yes.
Were those sent to those 3 apartment buildings?
Yeah. Okay, okay, seeing no comments from the audience, I hereby close the public hearing and call a vote. All in favor of the noise waiver bylaw for the bonded wearing course. I assume that's a description of the
That's the,
part of the street.
that's the stuff that's put down.
Oh, okay. On Hammond Street, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye. John Van Scoyac,
Aye.
Michael Sandman.
Aye.
Paul Warren.
Aye.
David Perlman.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Hmm.
Okay.
very
Do
much.
you want to go on to warrant articles? Or you want to go back
Thank
to
you.
the interviews?
They are
Thank
not
you.
here yet, so we are still moving at an efficient
Amy.
pace.
Okay.
That being said,
Are the warrant article petitioners available?
they're not here quite yet, so I might suggest we go to warrant articles
Discussion,
continue.
Possible vote.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay. Item 10 on the agenda. Warrant Article 4, the acceptance of Chapter 59, Section 5N of the General Laws allowing for the creation of a Veterans Tax Work-Off Reduction Program. We had a discussion of that last meeting, addressed a number of issues. Any further discussion? No?
It's just one,
Yeah.
I have
Paul?
one comment, Bernard, and I'm in fully support of this article. I just wanted to make sure that that will capture the discussion we had last week about monitoring the availability of positions and, not creating a situation where we have one protected group competing against another protected group for these types of opportunities.
The select board's report and the combined reports will mention that.
That's great. Okay, thank you.
Okay. And beyond that, do we have any power to control?
This is this, if it were passed, would allow you to create the program. It doesn't
Okay.
set the contours of the program. So obviously we take that, the directive of the board very seriously when it
Okay.
comes to not making this a zero-sum game. So
Okay, so we'll structure it in such a way that it's not putting two groups against each other.
right.
Okay, unless there are any further questions, comments, I move approval of or favorable action on warrant Article 4. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. John Van Scoyac,
Aye.
Michael Sandman.
Aye.
Paul Warren.
Aye.
David Perlman.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Okay.
I might suggest, not to totally mess up your schedule, that you might take outdoor dining and the other questions next, and then
Okay.
come back, since I think Chestnut Hill is going to be of interest to people and it may be a little early. We want to make sure everyone who wants to have an opportunity to see that gets to see it.
Right.
If you want to take outdoor dining, and then however farther you want to go, but until we either get interviewees, warrant article petitioners, or you feel that enough time has passed to move on Chestnut Hill.
Now let's go to outdoor dining.
Okay. So we went through last week the proposed changes with the team. We made one additional change based on subsequent feedback, which I will put up on the screen just so folks can see.
It's actually 2 changes, right, Jeff?
Right, two changes, on one page, which is language making clear, one, that licenses are issued in the town's sole discretion. Applications can be denied for reasons including, there's not enough space in the street. It would be dangerous. There'd be, there's a storm drain there that can't be blocked. Any appropriate reason to deny a license. We just want to make explicit that that's there so that there's no thought this could be, as a guarantee. And then making clear that new applications will be reviewed on a first come, first served basis by the select board licensing panel once all departmental sign-offs are achieved, and may be subject to additional review as all things, approved by the panel are by the select board. So, those are the two changes made in response to feedback. Otherwise, the document is as it was.
I have one question. The outdoor dining season is April 1st through November, I guess, November 1st. Right?
Correct.
But we start putting out the Jersey barriers on April 1st.
Correct.
Is there any way that that could be
So-
before the start of the season?
We
Because it-
we talked about this with DPW, and the concern we continue to have is with winter. We've been very fortunate these last few years. We may not be fortunate again, and we really want to be. The other thing is, it's not just the winter. It's not just, there might be snowpack on the ground April 1st. That's not always the case. It's more like, what's the backlog of work that DPW has at the end of the season, at the end of the winter season? Because as soon as they are capable of going out on the road and doing emergency repair work and so forth, that's what they're doing. So they typically at the start of spring have a significant backlog of work to get to, which is why we want to be very clear in setting expectations to the businesses. We will make every effort to get barriers out there. We understand particularly that businesses have an interest in being open the weekend of the marathon. But we can't guarantee that because we can't guarantee the weather, and we can't guarantee how much work needs to be done in the aftermath of winter. So starting in April 1st, starting the barriers out April 1st was the earliest I think we all felt comfortable asking DPW to start that process, given how much backlog they typically have once spring gets started.
Mike?
I just want to remind you of the April Fool's Day blizzard in the early 90s.
I was here, I remember.
Which dumped, I think, 12 or 15 inches on April 1st at the Brookline. 2 days later, it was
Could happen
gone.
again, but
But
then again, it's not guaranteed.
Yeah,
No,
that's
it-
not guaranteed to happen, but certainly not guaranteed not to happen.
37 inches on Concord, Massachusetts. My dog disappeared into the snow.
Okay, Paul, you have your hand
Yeah,
up?
I wanted to thank Chaz for adding
Yeah.
these two provisions, and specifically the one that allows the town to, at its discretion, make a determination as to whether it should allocate areas of the public way for outdoor dining. We could see this potentially becoming very, very popular, and where could get into a situation where we're converting the public way, which includes parking and walkways, into dining space. And I just think it's really important that we have the ability to throttle that if we need to. Very much in line with what we talked about last week, where depending on the priority within the area and what we're seeing for parking demand and biking and stuff, we may want to be very careful about having precious space automatically taken up by outdoor dining, which I support outdoor dining. I think it's very beneficial to the neighborhoods, but we need to be able to control it and not be accused of, picking winners and losers on outdoor dining.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, we're moving along a little too fast here.
You do need to vote to approve these.
I know, but.
It's okay.
And I do-
Want some more?
You have other
Well,
things to.
I do have one other question. I think John brought up, and I do like when we talk about these things more. So I think this is an important policy.
Go for it.
Right? Last week, I think John had mentioned, or someone had talked about the amount of money that we're giving up on the meters. So it's like 2.5 spaces, right? So that's 3 meters.
Yep.
Worth of potential revenue. And, are we covering that within the licensing fee? And if not, are we making it up in other ways, like, meals tax and additional demand within? I'm just curious to maybe have a little bit more meat on the bone.
So, I mean, the answer is no, right? The answer is ultimately this program is a subsidy. We don't get specific restaurant by restaurant information about what where the meals excise tax comes
Right.
in, right? The state just gives us the number at the end of the day, and that's by design. They don't want us knowing that information.
Yeah.
But the theory here is that you are effectively making an investment in your businesses and your business districts such that the growth then becomes sustaining. And ultimately you do have that interplay where you have a vibrant commercial neighborhood, you have tenants in, and eventually that balance between the excise tax, the commercial growth and commercial usage and so forth does balance that out. But, the process here is really one of, you're trying to incentivize growth. And so in that way, there is a subsidy here. And we just want to be mindful of that, which is why this is a continued work in progress, right? We want to continue evaluating this to make sure that we are not, we're truly getting the benefit to it. It's not just about the money, obviously, but the money is a big part of it.
And what, can you remind me what the gap was between, how much are we subsidizing?
So
the meters?
I'm off the top of my head, I think it's 2,600 a year for a meter.
For a year?
Per year. So you're talking about a period of 8 months, 9 months. You've got, right, you're talking about 3 meters. So, back of the envelope, call it, roughly $6,000 to subsidize a spot in the public way. And we're charging $500 for repeats, $1,000 for new. So it's a significant subsidy on that.
A lot of money.
But again, you have to factor that again, meals tax, the revenues there and so forth, which are harder to calculate. But also recall, even at the level that you were operating at before, you were still subsidizing these spots, right? It was less, but it was still a subsidy. If you want to treat it as though it was around $6,000, you were still only charging, $3,000, $4,000. It was going up to that level. But you would also see the downfall and the fact that other communities have made the determination to subsidize it. Other communities are making the same kind of calculation that you are, that still do outdoor dining, which is the value in increased traffic and increased use of commercial space, especially in the aftermath of the pandemic, is worth trying to subsidize this for the present term while we figure out,
So that's just, I just want to make sure I understand just from the number standpoint. Are you saying on average, we would be subsidizing 6,000 per restaurant for outdoor dining if they're in the metered spaces?
it would be closer to 5,000 just
Right,
on,
okay.
But again, it's not apples to apples.
I
there. It
understand.
would be
I'm just
less
trying to
than
get a ball.
5,000.
I'm just trying
It would
to
be less than 5,000. You're talking, it's definitely a subsidy. But again, and you're not factoring in labor, you're not factoring in some of these other things. So the cost can go up based on, for example, DPW overtime. Cost can go down based on, what we're seeing in terms of the delta in the excise tax. Sorry, the meals tax.
Good. Mike?
I'm a little surprised by the meter yield of $2,600 a year. Is that what, am I correct?
let me pull my numbers before I speak.
Because
off the top of
that
my
seems
head.
like a very low number to me.
Let me
We
pull-
have about 2,000 meters.
right.
And so that would be $520,000 a year worth of revenue.
Ordinarily, I would have my cell phone on me, but of course.
Or
I
am I
do not,
missing
in my
a zero
office.
here?
But I'm pulling this up.
I'm sorry, I'm missing a zero. That sounds much more like it.
Yeah.
Okay, my apologies.
No, it's okay. And again, I will get you the exact number. I apologize. This is off the top of my
Oh,
head.
it's all right. Yeah, it's just that 2,600, just like.
John?
I wouldn't bother to pursue this point, but we do have time to kill.
It's an important point.
Because I still, I don't hear in the description that you just laid out of why, how you made that calculation, I don't hear accounted for the possibility that the car that would have parked at that meter simply parks at a meter that otherwise would have been empty further away from the restaurant.
That's right. So again, you're talking about, that's why it's difficult to really lay out,
Yeah.
the lost opportunity cost, right? The opportunity cost of taking those meters offline. Knowing as we do that we're conducting, for example, the Coolidge Corner parking study, we're doing these analyses of how much of our commercial parking is really used on a regular basis. So it's
Mhm.
hard to say, yes, on average, this meter brings in X. It's possible in busy districts that meter brings in more. It's also possible in those busy districts that that meter might not be being used because either it's more, people find it more convenient to park in the parking lots or, elsewhere. So it's never really, you need more specificity to really make an estimate of how much revenue you're giving up. I think it's really what I would say from this standpoint is you can assume that it is a subsidy. It's just not a subsidy that breaks the bank. We have been subsidizing this program already, and we have been for several years. We have also not been realizing the revenue from this program. We've been treating it as a pilot. So the revenue from this program does not go back into the operating budgets of the departments that run it. It goes into free cash. We've never budgeted for it. And that was intentional because
that means it's funding something.
yeah, well, I mean,
It is funding something.
no, but I mean, it's not funding something in the operating budget.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It is contributing to free cash, but
Yeah.
so.
Okay, Paul again?
We have time, so we might as well
Yeah.
spend a little bit more time on getting this straight.
Don't get
So
it,
that,
have it.
but
Not wasted.
so just if I understand, so let's assume that 30 restaurants would take up 3 spaces. So you're talking 150,000
Mhm.
in meter revenue,
Potentially.
right?
But again, what we would, if we were, that's the other thing is that we've had data now from, what we can expect in terms of meter revenue during the pandemic,
Mhm.
during the period when this has been in operation for a couple of years. And now it's still not enough that I think you could make a definitive trend line out of it, but we haven't seen, meter revenue is increasing and meter revenue has increased due to the raise in rates, which is good and important. But the fall off hasn't been such that we have felt like it's caused a dramatic dent in meter revenues.
Mhm.
We need to look at meter revenues this coming fiscal year because we're concerned now that there may be a plateau, but we don't think it's due to outdoor dining.
Okay. Okay. Ready to vote? Okay, I move approval of the proposed amendments to the outdoor dining program regulations and guidelines as presented by the town administrator and as shown in our packet. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. John Van Scoyac,
Aye.
Michael Sandman.
Aye.
Paul Warren.
Aye.
David Perlman.
Aye.
And chair votes aye. What should we do next? How about the committee of 7? Get
The
that.
committee of 7, and then you may have some interviewees.
Okay. So question of appointing David Perlman as the select board representative and chair of the committee of 7 for the public safety building's front entrance lobby feasibility study. Thank you, David, for agreeing to serve on this committee. It's an important committee. It's not going to take up a huge amount of time, but what time you do spend on it is valuable. So, any discussion?
I think folks should know.
What is the project?
The project is, so the public safety building, which was renovated, fully redone in 2000. Its lobby has some identified limitations, notably ingress and egress and the ability to have kind of space, space for confidential interviews of victims and, places for people to sit and so forth. It needs to be reevaluated, and we need to look at what we can do within the scope of the budget, the capital budget we have to improve it. And so that's what this committee of 7 is about. Building's it's going to be 25 years old next year. And so that's it's time for us to take a look at that entryway and see if there are ways we can improve it. And I think it's a priority of the police chiefs.
Okay. Any further discussion? Then I move approval of the appointment of David Perlman to the committees for 7 for the public safety building front entrance lobby feasibility study. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. John Van Scoyac,
Aye.
Michael Sandman.
Aye.
Paul Warren.
Aye.
David Perlman.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Looking forward to it.
Good.
Thank
you.
Attaboy.
Every select board member should have an opportunity to serve on a committee of 7. You learn a lot very quickly. Okay, where are we now? Wanna go
Melissa
to
Ann McQuarrie is here. So
Okay.
I suggest we go to her interview for the Brookline Commission for the Arts, if you're amenable to it.
Great. Thank you. Find it on my Brookline Commission for the Arts. You want to step to the podium and introduce yourself and why you would like to be on the Brookline Commission for the Arts and what you can bring to that body?
Awesome. Does this help? You can hear me okay?
Yes, just speak into the microphone.
Great. Well, it's so nice to meet you all. I've definitely voted for you. I've been a Brookline resident for over 10 years. I've worked in the tech field for the past 15, 20 years. I worked at companies like Adobe, Google. I've worked at Acuvia. So I have a lot of experience with sort of building bridges across the corporate world. I have a master's in fine arts from Parsons School of Design in Design and Technology. And my undergrad is a BFA in General Fine Arts, includes an art history minor from Maryland Institute College of Art. I have over the past year noticed that the Beacon Street gallery that is associated with Sanctuary has sort of fallen out of, being a operable gallery. And I've reached out to them. This is a concern for me, when we voted to put a medical dispensary there, part of the arrangement was to have a functioning gallery. I follow what's going on in Praise over on Harvard, which has been really wonderful. And so I was disappointed to see that the gallery had sort of closed, and I'd like to come onto the board to sort of help build that bridge. I noticed in January of 2024, there was an issue. Maybe it was new management. We're not exactly quite sure why the gallery has not been in use. We know that they want to push towards supporting the Brookline Food Bank, which is great. But I sort of feel there's an opportunity where I can come in and help. I feel that that gallery space was great and we really enjoyed it. It seemed to me maybe it was too controversial for the new management. I'm making assumptions, but I think that's something I can assist with, sort of figuring out why that gallery is not functioning, helping management to understand that, as far as I understood in 2019, that was a big part of the whole space that they set up there. So that is why I came to fill out the application. I think there's a lot I can do to sort of help figure out what's going on. Maybe we can pull in something that's more Brookline light. I noticed some of the installations there were very heavy, very intense. Maybe there's an opportunity where we can use that space for a way of supporting, Brookline local arts, wherever we can find that. I love, a lot of the things we've done with our flags in terms of artists and their work around town. I think there's an opportunity we can help, bring more families into that gallery and just do something to sort of build the bridge there. I think I can also help with the Newberry. So we know the Newberry is about to open. It's a 120 unit. It's assisted, independent, and long-term memory care. So there's going to be a lot of people moving in. And I think I can also, a lot of these folks are artists, watercolors, painting. I can help to sort of unite Brookline with the new community of people in December. So maybe we'll have art galleries up there, but somehow maybe, we can import art from people at that place to Beacon Street. But mostly I think it'd be a great opportunity to keep supporting the arts in Brookline. I think it's very important. So in addition to like grant writing and evaluation, curating, those were sort of three of the ideas I had. I noticed in the Unitarian, in the Universal Church near us, they have a coffee hour and they've got a rotating gallery there. I know there's a gallery, downstairs here. So I'd love to come on and, sort of be of service and try to pick up that conversation. I've tried to call over at Sanctuary and be like, hey, what's up with your gallery? This was very important to us as voters, 5 or 6 years ago. So we don't like to see it empty. So I think that's a place I can definitely be of service.
Thank you. Could you sort of flesh out some more your idea of using art in general to bring parts of our community together? I mean, you mentioned, the Newbury Elderly Housing Project. Any other ideas of using art pieces, art displays or exhibits, et cetera, for that purpose?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the great things we've seen improving, like I was just at Coolidge Corner this past weekend, and right next to the Simon Shoe Store, there was literally opera singers in the alley singing the most beautiful music that could bring you to tears, quality music.
Okay.
And I think there's an opportunity for more of that kind of thing. I would like to see more like family and like, maybe a father-son show or a mother-daughter show. Like there's so much great art going on in our Brookline Elementary. I think there's a great opportunity to bring that art into a curated setting and be a part of the curation, help people to get their art into frames and onto the wall, help to set up the stages of that. And then I sort of think if there's new ideas coming in, helping to promote that. But mostly what I'm thinking of is bringing back kind of, if it didn't work at Sanctuary, it may have been because the work was very, not controversial, but very avant-garde and unique. And maybe that was off-putting to the management. I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out as we go. But we have so many great artists here. Like, I think my favorite recent artist is John Wilson. So I often come into the lobby here just to see the beautiful sculpture. Or you'll notice that the MFA just sent out a flyer, about education and art. And on the back of that flyer is a full page drawing of John Wilson. So ways we can celebrate Brookline artists. I feel like I've always been a great supporter of Frederick Olmsted. When we started designing for the web, in the early 2000s, we really looked at the experience designers, like the landscape designers, the park designers. And when I moved to Brookline, I'm like, are you kidding me? Olmsted has a National Historical Society here. And then you really see that Olmsted's impression across Brookline. And I'm also interested in the history of Brookline, so there may be opportunities there. I've done a lot of research on Elizabeth Perkins, who is the wife of Lars Anderson, what their legacy was, how they were friends with the Olmsteds and how they were friends with the Cranes, and how each of these Cranes, meaning the Crane estate out in Ipswich, and they ended up donating their land to the town. Like there's a lot we could do to kind of continue to speak on behalf of the beautiful history here. And then I'm really excited about the new murals. Like, so I know that Ridley School has a new mural. I'd love to be a donator and assist with that. So I think there's a lot of great things going on. I can help to continue it.
Great. Paul?
Yep. Thank you. Thank you for coming forward. I too was quite disappointed, and I did speak with the folks at Sanctuary about the loss of the art gallery. It won't be coming back, which is it won't be coming back as far as I'm aware of. We'll learn from that and how we write our agreements. But I wanted to touch on this idea of public-private partnerships and murals. We have a number of historic murals that have been on the side of private buildings for quite some time, up in JFK Crossing, the JFK Crossing Neighborhood Association, commissioned a number of murals maybe 30, 35 years ago. One of them we just lost on the side of one of the restaurants there. They painted over it. And I'm just curious about your thoughts. You brought up murals, ways to better utilize private space through partnerships for art, for murals, maybe even for some rotating temporary murals that could be moved through. They add quite a bit to the community, but I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Yes, I absolutely agree. I feel like I was down donating at the Goodwill over down on Harrison Avenue in Boston. And as you drive down Molina Cast, there's brand new hotels with the most gorgeous murals I've seen in a long time. And I feel like it brightens up the community. I mean, you can see it now happening in Brookline where we've painted all of the, I think they're electrical boxes across town. And now these electrical boxes speak. They're beautiful. They catch people's attention and they're everywhere. And I feel like the way we've been doing it with the electrical boxes can continue with the wall space. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Great. David.
You talked about Brookline Light for certain exhibits, and I'm wondering if you could expound upon what you meant by that. Do you mean you'd like to see more explicit Brookline art content, or do you mean by Brookline artists?
By Brookline artists, yeah, because I think over the past 5 years, I've really seen, artists that we see everywhere. Like I'm not exactly sure of her name, who she does the beautiful like paintings of the turkeys. She's got a very distinct style, and her paintings are in the Levi, the smoothie shop. So I feel like people that are more kind of commonly noticed kind of represent like average Brookline. And I'm from the art community. I am not trying to diminish creativity because I've really loved every exhibit that was in the Sanctuary Gallery, the Beacon Street Gallery. But they're also very powerful and emotional and very deep and sometimes controversial, which can be excluded, like it can be exclusive in some ways because people are afraid of it, so maybe we don't have to go quite so deep. Maybe we can lighten it up. That's kind of what I meant by, sort of bringing in, schoolwork, bringing in, parents and children together. I think there's a great opportunity to do that, especially with all of our elementary schools. My son has just entered into the new 9th grade building, so I've just the 8 years we've been at Runkle, I just blown away. And I recently moved, so now I vote at Hayes, and the artwork in there was phenomenal. Just so much great work. So I think that's what I kind of meant, something that's more light and not quite so powerful.
So thank you. We will be, nice meeting you too, and hearing your ideas.
Great. So is there
We will be
next
making,
steps?
pardon me?
You guys will let go.
Yes, we'll let you know. We will be making the appointments at another meeting.
Sounds good. So nice to meet you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nicholas Chumenkovich is online for Preservation Commission if you'd like
Okay.
to go to his interview next. Nicholas, I'm promoting you now. And then you'll be able to start your video and then the chairman will begin your interview.
Okay, please introduce yourself and tell us why you would like to be on the Preservation Commission and what you can bring to the work of that commission.
So my name is Nicholas Shumenkovich. I've lived in Brookline now close to 20 years. I have 2 sons in college. I guess just as my name so evidently shows, actually, I was born abroad. I was born in Mexico. So I do bring a bit of, I guess, international and other experiences. My professional experience is as a financial person. I worked as a portfolio manager for Wellington Management. I was a partner there. And my studies were economics and business. So I believe that my background actually is I wouldn't say ideally, but certainly can contribute to the preservation. I am interested in it in the commission. I was talking to a member, Arisa Boyd, and we were having conversations about what the preservation does. And, again, being, I guess, 20 years a long-term resident of the town, I feel that I want to contribute. I just recently retired. And as I find the town having an awful lot of character, I guess historic elements to it, that I would like to get involved, preserve those, and improve other things that I think need some work.
Great. John.
Well, Nicholas, thank you so much for applying for this position. How have you had much opportunity to get familiar with, the issues that the Preservation Commission deals with whenever they meet? Do you have a general view of whether preservation processes and laws are when you see that it can get down to even things such as, whether a window is historically appropriate in a particular historic district. Are you comfortable with that level of detail of the work of the Preservation Commission?
So I guess I will start off by saying I did listen to a couple of the meetings that you've had, and I did have a conversation with Elton. So that is to the extent, in addition to the conversations I've had with Arisa and a couple of the issues that she has mentioned. So that's the extent of it. I did read the I guess the what are they called, the Town of Brookline, the Preservation Commission regulations and general information. I can't say that I am an expert on the detail of windows. I'm not an architect, although I am very interested in, I guess, architecture in general. My brother-in-law is an architect in Mexico. But besides that, the level of detail, I am not as familiar, but I am do want to learn, I guess, or be more. I'm happy to be involved at that level of detail. I do think they're important details. Sorry, go ahead.
No, excellent. Thank you for that answer.
Paul.
Nicholas, thank you for coming forward. In your application, you mentioned that you'd like to see the Preservation Commission address the difficult issues of preserving our wonderful assets in character, while also, addressing the challenges of affordable housing. Can you speak a little bit more about that and what you mean by that and what you think could be done?
So it is obviously an issue that touches, I guess, many towns. And as a business person, as an economist, it's a conversation that I've had very often about how best to do that. It's obviously a complicated process, and there isn't just a one answer. Like in anything in economics, you have to, there's gives and takes. There's compromises one needs to do. But what I found, I think, interesting is that I found that a lot of people do not have the data necessary to make possible decisions. In one of the meetings I heard, there was talk about a developer, and the developer said that he needed to make this building rather large in order to make a profit, but there were no data regarding that. What is the internal rate of return, for example, for that building? Is that adequate? So I think that there's data. We need a lot more data to start having some conversations. And I believe that is something that I would like to push more so that we make informed decisions and not just opinions.
I guess a follow-up question, Bernard.
Sure.
So just to explore a little bit further. So, because you were very specific about the challenges facing, the balancing preservation with affordable housing. Where can you talk about maybe how data or more information, how do you blend those two, and what are some of your ideas in order to blend those two?
Wow. So we'll start with affordable housing. I mean, I start with, again, going back to the data, a lot of people are pushing, affordable housing. I think it is an interesting idea, but I'd like to see the data of who actually is living in the affordable housing that is currently available. And I have found very often in the conversations that there are people who don't necessarily need or should qualify for that, but information is an aspect where I think a lot of the families that could live there, they just don't have the information, so they don't know. And the people who live there are people who have access to information. So that would be one aspect that I would like to spend more time on. And again, more specific, I guess, is again, I don't have anything more specific on that. I have a lot of ideas. Again, it's the give and take of green spaces, which I think are important for mental health, for climate, coupled with I guess having more dense area and construction. So I think those are the two things that need to be explored.
Okay, thank you.
Well, David, I mean,
I'm wondering about your methodology in how you would determine whether something is worthy of preservation or not, or the official designation of being historic. So do you have a particular rubric that you would follow? Is there a checklist that you would run through? What's your philosophy on that?
It's an interesting, I haven't thought it through 100%. I don't know if I lost you.
No,
Okay. So I believe that there's rules and regulations that need to be followed. I do believe in aesthetics, but that is an opinion. And that is the one area that I would like to spend more time on, the aesthetics behind it. Again, I think using numbers and economics are an important piece to what we're trying to accomplish. Again, just saying something should be preserved because some people like it and do not want to see, I guess, an evolution of the properties. So that would be where I would be focusing on, is both the aesthetics, the regulation, coupled with what exactly are people really discussing.
good. Any other questions? Thank you. We will be making appointments to the Preservation Commission at a later meeting, and you'll be informed in advance.
Thank you.
Okay, that's the end of our interviews, given that we lost a couple. Next, warrant article public hearing. Is that, we ready for that?
Yes, we're juggling a couple of meetings that are happening at the same time for different petitioners, but if we can start with warrant article 19,
Okay,
the petitioners are both here.